I want to welcome you to the Ask Jeff YouTube channel. Here's today's question. Where does Scripture define marriage specifically as, quote, one man and one woman? I'm familiar with the passages that say man shall leave his parents, cleave to his wife, but many in the Old Testament had multiple wives and were not condemned for it. Seems like those verses just say, quote, wife, because one is obviously the minimum of wives one can have. Is there actually a passage that explicitly mandates one man and one woman? Well, the answer is both yes and no. We have to go to what we know as Matthew chapter 19. Now, let me set the stage. Those that were contrary to Jesus' life teaching and his identity were trying to pigeonhole him, trying to trap him, and they were asking him about marriage. And he talked about marriage being one man, one woman, just like you mentioned in the question. And he said, since it was needed and desired from the beginning. In other words, what Jesus is declaring in Matthew chapter 19 is God's original plan was one man and one woman. Now, the question also presumes, well, in the Old Testament, there were individuals such as Solomon, David, Abraham, and others who had multiple wives. Why were they not, quote, condemned? Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting because God's desire, as it says, was always one man and one woman. But I think we all understand that God distributes mercy on a regular basis to us where we are not punished for or receive the retribution for the ways of which we maybe color outside the lines, step outside the lines, whichever illustration you want to utilize. What we see in the Old Testament, though, is that the allowance, it's a bad word, but it's a good word, the allowance to go beyond God's original plan and construct was a means of navigating humanity to what we know as the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Not making it mandated, but allowing it to get to the Messiah. Because here's where it gets interesting. Once we get to the New Testament, there is no provision at all for more than one wife. In fact, it's very explicit that it is not to occur, whether it's in Ephesians chapter 5, whether it's in 1 Timothy chapter 3, a host of other places. And so originally you did have one man and one woman, Adam and Eve. In fact, what's interesting is even the Bible makes it clear Noah, who built the boat, who got us on the other side of the flood, had one wife. Where we get interesting is in Genesis chapter 12 with the call of Abram and Sarah, we have one wife. Then we have Hagar. In that situation, things begin to go a little sideways. So from the beginning, one man, one woman, literally for an abundance of years, thousands of years, a period where we have a coloring outside the lines and then a return to the way it was designed to be. Jesus said in Matthew 19, verses 1 through 4, that it was that way that God intended from the beginning. Hope that helps. It was a great question. If you have one, send to askjeff.net. Maybe your question be tomorrow's. Thanks for being a part of today's daily question. Now, we answer a question each and every day. Please feel free to submit a new question at askjeff.net. We may not have gotten to yours today, but we eventually will continue to be a part of this. Subscribe so you don't miss out on a question every day.